today. It's that awkward first couple minutes of Facebook Live. Am I live? Is there anybody out there? Um, so as the pinwheel scrolls around my screen, I'm just gonna say welcome. Hi, I think we actually are live now. So, welcome. This is day number 28, I think. Yeah, Yep, day number 28 in a 30-day series that I started back in July, all about creative textile recycling, and that's what I do. My name is Crispina French, and I am a pretty avid, passionate textile recycling entrepreneur, artist, environmentalist, activist. There's bees flying around in here. They're not just bees, they're like wasps, the ones that have those little skinny kind of waste sort of things going out the window. There you go. Okay, it's gone. Sorry about that. Anyway, yes, I am very passionate about recycling textiles, and over the years, hi Reed, it's so nice to see you again. We've had a lot of connection this morning, and that's really cool. Over the years, that textile recycling that started for me as a business when I was an art school student back in Boston has kind of spilled out into all areas of my life, and in the best ways possible. So for, I don't know, I think it's been like 25 years, I've been a pretty committed yogini. I practice yoga and started practicing yoga with at a place called Berkshire Mountain Yoga, which was in Great Barrington years ago. And my first yoga teacher was Karen Allen. If you guys know Raiders of the Lost Ark, she's an actress, and she's also, well, she was a yoga teacher. And she's an amazing, actually, Karen Allen is somebody worth looking up. She makes amazing cashmere fiber art, wearable fiber art, scarves, hats. I don't know if she does garments, but her work and she's a lovely, lovely woman. So she was my very first yoga teacher, and um, for years and years, I would go to yoga classes and just practice when I was in class. And at the time, and I'm not sure if they still do this because I have my own yoga mat, but at the time, I would go to the studio and I would always just borrow a yoga mat and all the props that are part of the practice. So there's blocks that are often made out of this kind of sort of foamy, sort of cushiony plastic. Um, Yoga mats are kind of like this. They're like fruit roll-ups made out of some kind of weird plastic. And as yoga became more and more popular, and it was kind of like the go-to form of meditation and exercise for so many people, it became apparent to me that all of those yoga mats wear out and become trash. And they're really hard. I mean, they're not recyclable. I have heard about people recycling them, but I can't remember now. It's not coming to mind what they were making with them. But I came into a huge fabric stash from some people who had passed away, and they had left behind a fabric stash that was like breathtaking, but also a little overwhelming. So I made a collection of yoga mats, and they were very labor intensive and probably not the best product for me to make to sell, but I want to show you this yoga mat. So um, let's see, I'm sitting down right now, and I think if I stand up, you're just going to see my knees, but let me see. Okay, so this is my yoga mat, and it's the same measurement as the yoga mats that are more commercially available. And it is made from layers. There's 5 layers of fabric that are just stitched together with this crazy pattern. And it's a little hard to move the fabric through the machine, so I use my industrial sewing machine for this project. And I bought a special presser foot that looks like, it looks kind of like a bowl with a hole in the middle. So the needle goes through the middle hole, and instead of having like the edges of a regular presser foot that kind of keep it from moving easily, it allowed for me to move the fabric under the presser foot in a way to create an all over quilted pattern. And I was able to use a lot of fabric that was gorgeous, and like I just needed to make it into stuff. So this yoga mat I've had for, I think I made these about 3 years ago, and there's a couple of improvements that I made for the ones that I did not keep, and those were I stitched down some twill tape just across either end, about 6 inches apart. I did about 4 or 5 different little just zigzagged them, so they were like ribs. So when you were doing like um, your poses with your feet spread, and if you were doing a lunge pose, your feet would have somewhere to grip and not just slide away. Those sticky mats that yoga studios often use are they really help kind of plant your feet or your arms and keep the sliding and the slipping to a minimum. So um, those ribs of additional fabric. So what I did is I took a piece of 2-inch wide twill tape, and I kind of rolled it, and I zigzag stitched across it. So it just created a texture across the ends. And like I said, I did those in from the ends about 18 inches on either side, so that it was easier to keep for traction. Um, so that is my recycled textile tip of today. There's not much to it. It's just, so when I laid them out, I laid out the fabric. I chose the layers that I wanted to have be visible. So I chose the fabrics that I kind of like the best. This is a really cool old school kind of hippie granola, um, like tapestry bedspread. Um, and then there's also on the other side, there's another, this is a hand woven fabric that I think is from, it could be from Guatemala, or it could be from maybe India. And then, so I laid them out on I have a big flat surface where I do my ironing, and I use it for laying stuff out as well. So I laid out the layers, and I carefully like smoothed them all. And I cut them all a little bit bigger than I wanted my mat to wind up being. So the first layer that went down was the one that I wanted to see on the outside. The second one, third and fourth layers were materials that might have had holes or stains or ways and blemishes that would keep them from being very useful for other stuff. And then the top layer I smoothed out on top with and pinned through all 5 layers. So I used the pins that I actually use and sell in my shop are called quilter's pins, and they're 1 3/4 inches long, so it's easy to pin through, the dense thickness of 5 layers of fabric with those nice long pins. And I just pinned it all the way around and stitched kind of from top to bottom and from side to side to keep it kind of smooth. And then I pulled the pins out and just did my all over machine kind of quilting, drawing with thread. Is it easier? Let me see. I think it's actually easiest to see on the light colors. Let me see if I can show this to you. So that all over kind of quilting pattern held it together, and it created this beautiful kind of nice, dense, but very useful and functional yoga mat. So if you have the ability to think about, if you're a yogini, if you like yoga. If you're not, I really recommend it. You don't need to be fit, you don't need to be thin, you don't need to know what you're doing. Find yourself a hatha yoga class, and it nurtures your soul. And it also, if you like it and it becomes something that you want to practice more, it's really just good for your body. It's good for your alignment. It tones your muscles. It clears your head, all of the above. So there's nothing really wrong with yoga. And traditionally, it's an ancient practice. I think it goes back thousands of years. And people did not use sticky mats, and people did not use foam blocks until very recently in the history of yoga. So there are ways around the plastic props, and I encourage you to find those ways. And one way is with a handmade, all recycled yoga mat. So if you have a fabric stash that's driving you crazy and you just don't know what to do with all that stuff, think about a yoga mat, and maybe maybe there's someone that you love who is a yoga practitioner who would love that as a gift this holiday season, or maybe you need to spend a little time making something super special for yourself. So then the other things that are yoga related that I just want to touch upon are water bottles. Um, so my husband is a plumber, and we've known my husband and I have known each other actually all of our lives, and we got married. We've been married 15 years, but um, the because he's a plumber, he knows a lot about water and water contamination and pipes that he doesn't use PVC pipes for water that comes into places where you pour drinking water from, like kitchen sinks, or he always uses copper. And the reason is because the PVC piping that plumbers use to carry water it off gases into the water that you then drink, and then it's in your body, and it can cause health issues over time. So um, he's very conscientious about water and water quality. So when we first started dating, I had a Nalgene bottle, and this is not about slamming Nalgene, but Nalgene bottles are made from plastic. That is very hard to detect the off-gassing aspect of um, their product because it doesn't smell bad, and the Nalgene bottles generally last for years, but they're made out of a very highly toxic plastic. So on his suggestion, I switched my water bottle from a plastic bottle to a stainless steel bottle, and it just, it doesn't matter if it gets warm in the car, the stainless steel is not going to off-gas into your water. And you can also use glass. I was talking in a couple of episodes ago about mason jars and how I use mason jars for everything. I use mason jars for food storage. I use mason jars to put in my freezer with frozen fruit for smoothies all winter. I use mason jars for I make pin cushions out of mason jars. I mean, they're just very versatile. And actually right now I think everybody's using mason jars because they're very hard to come by. And I'm speaking really quickly, so what I'm saying is